There are things in life that haunt you long after the deals are closed and the commissions are cashed. I'm 72 years old now, living quietly in a modest condo in the suburbs west of New York City, far from the glass towers and the relentless hum of Wall Street. For nearly 40 years, I chased numbers, climbed ladders, built a life out of ambition and adrenaline. I wore the sharp suits, worked the 80-hour weeks, celebrated the big wins in steakhouses with bottles that cost more than most people's rent. But looking back across the skyline of regrets, it's not the market crashes or the missed opportunities that keep me awake. It's the words I let slip, the confidences I shared too casually, the truths I thought would impress or connect. They came back like margin calls I couldn't cover. We live in a world where information is currency. And in the financial district, that was truer than anywhere else. One whispered figure, one offhand boast, one vulnerable admission could shift alliances, tank deals, or label you forever. I've made mistakes, career-ending, relationship-shattering mistakes, and every one began the same way. I opened my mouth when silence would have served me better. You think your colleagues are your tribe. You believe the people you grind alongside, celebrate bonuses with, confide in over late-night drinks. They'll have your back. So you share, you reveal, you confess. And then it circles back through the trading floor, the partners' meetings, the LinkedIn networks, sharp as a stop-loss order. Sometimes they weaponize it deliberately. Sometimes it's just office politics doing what it does. But the damage is irreversible. As we age, wisdom becomes the only asset that compounds without risk. And the hardest earned lesson from my decades in that arena is this: some things must never be spoken, not to mentors, not to peers, not to anyone. Today, I want to share 5 career confessions you must keep buried deep. These are the revelations that once voiced can't be clawed back. They spread, they mutate, they destroy the reputation you've spent years constructing. Speaking your mind in the corporate world isn't always integrity. Sometimes it's professional suicide. The wrong words don't just wound others, they bankrupt your future. If this resonates across the cubicles and corner offices of your life, stay with me. I'm Victor Lang, Echo from the City Lights. Let's begin.
Secret number 1 is your salary negotiations. Never reveal what you're asking for, what you've been offered elsewhere, or the exact figure that would make you stay. Let the compensation committee or recruiter guess, then let the signed offer speak for itself. I was 34 in 1987, riding the wave of the go-go years. Reaganomics, junk bonds, leveraged buyouts, the street was drunk on possibility. I'd started at a mid-tier investment bank right out of Wharton, proved myself on mergers and acquisitions, and by 87, I was a vice president with a solid track record. Black Monday was still a few weeks away, and headhunters were circling like sharks. One prestigious bulge bracket firm, let's call it Goldman Light, was courting me hard for a director-level role in their M&A group. The offer was tantalizing. Base nearly double mine, guaranteed bonus, equity kicker. I was thrilled but nervous. Leaving felt risky, staying felt stagnant. So I did what I thought was smart. I confided in my mentor, Richard, a managing director who'd taken me under his wing. Over martinis at the Harvard Club, I laid it out. They're offering $220 base plus $300 bonus minimum, I told him. I think I can push them to $250. What do you think? Should I make the jump? Richard listened thoughtfully, nodded, promised confidentiality. 2 days later, my current boss called me in. Victor, we've heard you're exploring options. We value you. Counteroffer, $230 base, $350 bonus if you stay. It sounded great, better than the external offer, but something felt off. I pressed the headhunter. Suddenly, the external firm cooled. We've decided to go internal, they said. Only later did I piece it together. Richard, loyal to the firm that had made him rich, had quietly tipped off HR. My own numbers became ammunition to retain me cheaper than the market would have paid. I stayed, got the raise, but the resentment festered. Within a year, when bonuses came, mine was mysteriously lighter than promised. Whispers followed. Victor was shopping himself. Can't trust him to be loyal. Promotions slowed. Colleagues kept distance, fearing I'd bolt and take clients. By the time I finally left 5 years later, the market had changed. My reputation as the guy who almost jumped lingered. I never again commanded the premium I could have in '87. I drive past those midtown towers sometimes and think, that director title, that 7-figure trajectory, gone because I spoke numbers too soon. Here's why it happens. Salary information is power. When you reveal it, you hand others leverage. Your current firm uses it to lowball retention, competitors use it to withdraw. Peers hear it and jealousy brews. Suddenly, you're the overpaid one or the underpaid complainer. In America's hyper-competitive corporate culture, money talk triggers comparison, resentment, sabotage.
So keep negotiations opaque. When colleagues probe, smile and say, "I'm happy where I am," or "We'll see what year-end brings." Let headhunters and HR deal in hypotheticals. Sign the deal, then announce you're moving or staying, after the ink dries. Silence here preserves your market value. Your worth is your leverage. Guard it fiercely. Secret number 2, your side hustles. Never tell colleagues, bosses, or even close work friends about the businesses, investments, or gigs you're building on the side. Let them discover success only when it's undeniable. This one hit in the dot-com 90s. I was 45, a managing director now at a boutique firm specializing in tech IPOs. The internet boom was intoxicating, everyone dreaming of the next Netscape. I'd always been entrepreneurial, moonlighting was in my blood. In '96, I quietly co-founded a small software startup with 2 college buddies, a platform for online equity research, ahead of its time. We bootstrapped it nights and weekends, no conflict with my day job since we targeted retail investors, not institutions. I was cautious at first, but pride crept in. One evening after a big underwriting win, the team was celebrating at a Soho loft bar. Drinks flowed, egos inflated. My closest colleague Dana asked what I did with all my bonus money. I let it slip. "Investing in something exciting," I said, then spilled the beans. The startup, the vision, the early traction. The table erupted in excitement. Questions, ideas, congratulations. It felt good to be seen as more than just a banker. Within weeks, everything shifted. Dana mentioned it casually to our group head, who mentioned it to compliance. Suddenly, I was under review for potential conflict of interest. Even though there was none legally, the optics were bad. How could I be objective on tech deals while building a tech company? Clients got wind through gossip. One pulled a mandate citing divided loyalties. Worse, 2 junior analysts on my team quit to join similar ventures, claiming I'd inspired them. Poaching accusations flew. The startup itself suffered. A competitor, hearing through the venture grapevine, copied our model faster with deeper pockets. We sold for peanuts in '99, just before the bubble peaked. My day jobs stagnated. Partners viewed me as the entrepreneur, not serious about the firm. When the bust came in 2000, 2001, I was among the first laid off in the purge. Looking back, that one boozy confession cost me millions in potential exit value and derailed a partnership track. Side hustles thrive in the dark. Once exposed in corporate America, they invite scrutiny, envy, imitation, regulation. The IRS even audited me later, tipped off somehow. In a culture obsessed with hustle and transparency, secrecy is the only shield. So build quietly. Use separate emails, nondescript LLCs, trusted partners outside your industry. When people ask what you do outside work, say family time or golf. Reveal only after the liquidity event when jealousy can't touch you. Your empire is your escape hatch. Keep it hidden until it's bulletproof. Secret number 3, your burnout episodes. Never admit to colleagues, especially superiors, that you're exhausted, overwhelmed, or questioning the grind. It labels you weak in a culture that worships hustle. By 2008, I was 55, back on my feet at a hedge fund after the dot-com scars. The financial crisis was unfolding in real time.
Lehman collapsing, markets in free fall. We were working 100-hour weeks, sleeping under desks, fueled by fear and Red Bull. I'd been through crashes before. This one felt existential. Chest pain started, sleepless nights, a creeping dread that none of it mattered.
One morning in October, after another all-nighter, a CIO pulled the survivors into a war room. "We're in this together," he said. "How's everyone holding up?" Most grunted, "Fine." When it came to me, I cracked. "Honestly, I'm burned out," I admitted. "This pace, it's unsustainable. I'm questioning if I can keep going like this." I thought vulnerability would humanize us, maybe spark change. Instead, it marked me. Within days, I was pulled from the most critical trades. "We need fresh energy on this," they said. My bonus that year, despite the fund outperforming, was slashed, with vague references to commitment. Peers avoided eye contact, fearing contagion. When the dust settled in 2009 and hiring resumed, I was passed over for new leadership roles. The Whisper Network had it. Victor burned out in 2008, can't handle pressure. I left voluntarily in 2011, took a smaller role at a private equity shop, but the damage lingered. Recruiters asked pointed questions, references hedged. In America's workaholic corporate mythology, burnout isn't a warning sign, it's a character flaw. Admitting it signals you're not built for this, especially in finance, where stoicism is currency. People respect the unbreakable facade. They promote the ones who never complain. Vulnerability invites pity at best, exclusion at worst. Save breakdowns for therapists, spouses, anonymous forums if you must. At work, project calm competence. Managing fine, you say with a steady smile. Your mental health is your private capital. Depleted openly, and the market prices you down permanently. Secret number 4, past job firings. Never volunteer the full story of why you left previous roles, especially if it involved termination, forced resignation, or scandal. Let background checks and references tell their sanitized version. This scar dates to 2003, post-Enron, post-WorldCom. I was 50, running a division at a major bank. Sarbanes-Oxley had everyone paranoid about accounting. A deal I'd championed, a complex structured finance transaction, came under scrutiny. Numbers were aggressive but legal, yet the optics were terrible amid the reform wave. The board decided someone needed to fall on the sword. I was offered a choice: resign quietly with severance or fight and risk charges. I chose the quiet exit. The official line was pursuing other opportunities. Severance included NDA, decent references. I landed softly at the hedge fund. But in 2015, interviewing for a coveted partner role at a private equity giant, an old colleague from the bank sat across the table. Over drinks, after hours, he asked directly. Trusting the rapport, I gave the unvarnished truth, the scapegoating, the unfairness, my bitterness. He nodded sympathetically. I got a polite rejection days later. Word had spread. Suddenly, my narrative shifted from seasoned survivor to the guy from that messy exit. Opportunities dried up. Even in retirement, when I mentor young analysts, I sense the shadow. Googling my name brings up old articles if you dig deep enough. In corporate America, with its obsession with risk management, a firing is a permanent stain. Context doesn't matter, the fact does. Once you confirm it verbally, you hand critics confirmation. They fear guilt by association, regulatory ghosts, your judgment. So curate the narrative ruthlessly. Mutual decision, cultural fit, seeking new challenges. Let doubters speculate, never confirm. Your history is your brand equity. One candid admission can devalue it forever. The thing about a firing, or a forced exit as we politely called it, is that it never really leaves you. It becomes part of your permanent record, even if the official paperwork says otherwise. Background checks might not turn it up, references might stay mum, but the human network remembers. One candid conversation, one moment of thinking you're safe with an old colleague, and the narrative flips. Suddenly, you're not the seasoned executive with battle scars from multiple cycles. You're the guy who blew up at his last big role. Opportunities that were warming up go cold. Headhunters stop calling with the top-tier mandates. Board seats you were quietly in line for evaporate. All because you confirmed what rumor had only whispered. I've spent the last decade watching younger colleagues navigate this same minefield, and I see them make the same mistake. Thinking that time heals the brand damage. It doesn't. In corporate America, reputation is a delicate asset, appreciating only with meticulous protection, depreciating catastrophically with one misstep. So you curate the story ruthlessly. You practice the vague, upbeat lines in the mirror. You let ambiguity work in your favor. Your past is equity. Don't let a moment of catharsis dilute it. Secret number 5. Colleagues' weaknesses. Never voice, out loud, in email, in text, what you perceive as someone else's professional flaws, blind spots, or unethical corners cut. Even if you're right, even if you're trying to help. Once you articulate it, you become the source, and it will boomerang when you least expect it. This final lesson cost me the closest thing I had to a protege, and nearly cost me my last role before retirement. It was 2018. I was 65, semi-retired, but still active as a senior advisor at a mid-sized private equity firm in Connecticut. The pace was saner, the commute tolerable, the ego strokes sufficient. One of the partners, Evan Caldwell, had brought in a new principal named Mia Chen. Sharp, Stanford MBA, former McKinsey, early 30s, hungry. Evan asked me to mentor her informally, help her navigate the politics of deal teams and investor relations. Mia was brilliant on paper, but in execution she had a flaw I recognized immediately. She was ruthless with subordinates. She'd throw analysts under the boss in partner meetings to make herself look better, take credit aggressively, and manage up with a polish that masked a willingness to let others carry the blame for her miscalculations. I'd seen the type before, often rose fast, often exploded spectacularly. For months, I watched. Analysts assigned to her deals burned out at twice the usual rate. One talented VP quietly left for a competitor after Mia hung him out to dry on a botched due diligence memo. I debated saying something. Finally, during a late-night session reviewing a portfolio company's numbers, Mia asked for candid feedback. "You've seen a lot of careers," she said. "What should I work on?" I hesitated, then thought, this is mentoring. This is the value I bring. So I told her. Gently, I thought. You're phenomenal at framing narratives upward and spotting value drivers, but you sometimes leave your team exposed. Long-term, that erodes loyalty and can backfire when you need cover. I gave examples, anonymized, constructive. She thanked me, seemed receptive. 2 weeks later, Evan called me into his office. His face was tight. "Mia came to me in tears," he said. "Claims you undermined her confidence, said she's ruthless and throws people under the bus. She's threatening to file a formal complaint for hostile mentoring environment." I was stunned. I explained the context. She'd asked, I answered honestly. Evan sighed. "Victor, I know your intent was good, but in this climate, Me Too, DEI initiatives, you can't put criticisms like that on record, even verbally. It's too easy to weaponize." The fallout was swift and surgical. Mia was promoted to partner 6 months later. I was quietly removed from all mentoring programs and excluded from new deal allocation. My advisory contract wasn't renewed the following year. Colleagues who'd known me for decades averted eyes in hallways. The Whisper Network had flipped the script. I wasn't the wise elder. I was the outdated boomer who couldn't handle a strong woman's ambition. I reached out to Mia once, after my contract ended, to clear the air. She responded with a polite but icy email. "I appreciate your perspective at the time, but I've moved forward." I never heard from her again. That experience crystallized the final truth. In today's corporate America, hypersensitive to optics, quick to litigate, obsessed with narrative control, criticizing a colleague's weakness, even privately and constructively, marks you as the problem. The subject reframes it as attack.
HR sides with caution, and you become radioactive. Loyalty flows upward and sideways, rarely downward. Speaking truth to ambition is interpreted as threat. So you observe silently. If asked for feedback, you stay relentlessly positive or maddeningly vague. Keep doing what you're doing, you're crushing it. You document your own work obsessively. You build alliances with those who can protect you. And you never, ever commit a negative observation to the air where it can be recorded, repeated, or respun. Let me tie this all together now, from the quiet of this suburban den on a cold December evening in 2025, with the city lights a distant memory on the horizon. I'm 72 years old, and I've watched brilliant careers, my own included, derailed not by market forces or bad investments, but by careless words. I revealed salary negotiations too early, and it capped my earning power for years. I boasted about a side hustle at the wrong moment, and it invited scrutiny, imitation, and eventual failure. I admitted burnout during the darkest days of the financial crisis, and it branded me as fragile when resilience was the only currency that mattered. I confirmed the full story of a past forced exit to someone I thought was a friend, and it quietly closed doors I didn't even know were opening. And finally, I offered honest, critical feedback to a rising star who asked for it, and it ended my last chapter in the industry on a sour, isolating note. These are losses I can't compound interest away. They're permanent haircuts to a portfolio I spent decades building. But they're also the clearest lessons I have to offer.
Most people in corporate America talk too much. We're conditioned to network, to share, to build personal brand through storytelling and vulnerability. LinkedIn rewards oversharing. Podcasts glorify origin stories complete with failures and feelings. But in the actual corridors of power, trading floors, boardrooms, partner meetings, the quiet ones advance furthest. The ones who reveal only what serves them. The ones whose mystique remains intact. So practice disciplined silence. Keep compensation conversations opaque until the deal is signed. Build your side empires in the shadows until they cast their own light. Guard admissions of exhaustion like state secrets. Curate your professional history with the precision of a proxy statement. And never, ever articulate a colleague's flaw where it can be traced back to you. Your words are positions in a market that never closes. Once opened, they can be shorted by anyone. I'm Victor Lang, just an old Wall Street survivor with too many war stories and a comfortable but quieter retirement than I once imagined. The relationships I damaged, the wealth I left on the table, the respect I lost, I'll carry those to the end. But perhaps by laying out these hard truths, someone climbing the same ladders will pause before speaking and preserve more of what they've earned. Guard your confessions fiercely. Guard your career fiercely. And when in doubt, let calculated silence be your sharpest edge. Because in the city lights that never sleep, the ones who endure are the ones who know when to stay dark.